All right, folks, welcome to 𝗬𝗏𝗠𝗃𝗏. I'm joined with Dr. Jan Halper, part of the DOD task force. She's really made a big impact on mainstream, as well as she's made the circles on alternative media, and it's always a pleasure to have her here. Jan, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, Nino, I always love being with you. I'm going to be tying quite a few things together and pulling from my memory. So don't interrupt but if you have a question, just kind of raise your finger and I'll know to slow down. All right.
All right, I'm going to let you riff.
Okay. That'll be great. So there's one message that I want to get across to people, and that is, don't look at the incidents that are happening as isolated. And what I mean by that is, let's think that what we have is a spider web. In the very center of the spider web, I'm putting the cabal, the British Empire, and Executive Order 13848. People are thinking, what's Maduro? Is it drugs? Is it to take oil? Why is Trump bringing up Canada and tying that into it, and Mark Carney? So let me just start with that. The financial system is incredibly dependent on the drug cartels. And we all know that. And people have been asking me, why hasn't there been justice? Well, first off, we have a corrupt judicial system. So do we really want to see arrests? Do we really want to see handcuffs? And do we really want to see trials? Well, in our dreams, we do. But what do we know about our judicial system? If they arrest someone, are they likely to be able to get to trial within 2 years? And we have a corrupt DOJ. I mean, we know that not because of Bondi or the other people that Trump has put in there, but because of the long-standing people. So what Trump is trying to do is work around these things, get to the rot and root it out. But at the bottom of it, and the last time I was on, I made a reference about Epstein and 13848, and the bottom line is the British Empire, the Crown Corporation, does not want the US to have financial sovereignty. So if I can just do a quick refresher on how we lost our Constitution in 1871 to remind people, the City of London, the Vatican City, and Washington, D.C. are 3 sovereign states. Washington, D.C. has its own constitution. A lot of people aren't aware of that. The financial and trade since 1687, when William the Conqueror took over England, he gave the City of London the ability to be a sovereign state. If the king, or formerly the queen, had wanted to go into the City of London, they had to get permission to enter that state from the Lord Mayor. And that exists to this day. The goldsmiths are out of there. So they have been controlling our central banks. What happened was, after James II, when the cabal, the Crown Corporation, the City of London, it's all the same, were upset with how much money the monarchies in Europe were wasting money, they went to Pope Innocent XIV, who was a member of the most powerful Italian banking family, who gave them a loan to then get William of Orange, a Dutchman, to put together an army of 20,000 people and take over the monarchy in England. And William of Orange became King William, whatever number after him after that. All right. Now that is really key, because at that moment also, the Crown Corporation was able to take over the Bank of England. So the monarchy, the British Parliament, they have no say over the Bank of England. And then all the central banks are centered out of the Bank of England. Who was the former head of the Bank of England before he became Prime Minister of Canada? Mark Carney. I mean, we talk about John Bolton having been a pawn of the Crown Corporation. Well, Mark Carney is I don't know if he's Canadian. I don't think he's British. I don't know what his real nationality is, but he's the other major player, the major player. I don't know if he's a knight on the chessboard. I don't know if he's a rook, but he is one of those major players. And so by going in and taking Maduro out, now people ask, yeah, but they're talking about the judicial system being so corrupt. Why is he in New York? All right. For anyone thinks that this was a violation of international law, it wasn't. There was a federal warrant for the arrest of Maduro and his wife. As CIC, Commander-in-Chief, he had the power to enact on that federal warrant. The federal warrant was issued out of the Southern District. Therefore, Maduro was brought into New York, and that's where he is being jailed right now. All I can say is watch that space, because there will be other tentacles, other weavings from this spider web that will give us further clues about what's going to happen. People are saying, oh, is it for us to take over the oil? Who knows? I mean, Venezuela has more oil than the Middle East. Okay, fine. We can look at that. But is it something to do with the 2020 election? Because Trump has been talking more and more about the 2020 election. So now what do we have? We have 𝗬𝗏𝗶𝗹, the executive order. I mean, this was so brilliant of him. He put it together in 2017 that any entity, any person that interfered domestically, or if they were foreign, with our elections, we had a right to seize and sanction. And so that is one of the moves on the chessboard here. We are getting closer and closer to pulling the people in who are the rot, but also who can give us the kind of information that we need, or for Trump to be able to expose things. Now, the financial community is incredibly dependent on the drug cartels. So bombing those boats, sending our military in, I don't know how many people are aware, but I've been told it was only about 20 soldiers that went in, but drones, massive drones that knocked out all of their systems. So we were waiting for that to happen with our broadcast system. Well, they did it in Venezuela. And now Trump has also, by that action, put on notice Colombia and Cuba. Why have they come out and said, oh, this is horrible and, whatever, and an act of war? No. Now, here's the other thing about Trump, is that we know he doesn't want to get us into wars. Bolton gave an interview and said, if we don't go for a regime change, then this victory is hollow. That's how the neocons think. But yet, if you listen to Marco Rubio and you listen to Trump in a press conference, there's no desire right now to have a regime change. They're not pulling the Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, all of that stuff. No, what they're doing is they're putting people on notice. We don't know what is going to happen with the current regime in Venezuela. So again, that is something you need to look for, the optics, the clues that come out. But this is not a neocon effort. This was not a Gaddafi. This was not a Iraq. And the thing that I have just learned about Iraq, and when 9/11 happened, I was on a bus bringing my son home from school. I was in London, and he was only 6.5, and I didn't want TVs in the house. So we had to go to someone's house to watch everything that was going on. And one of the things that struck me then was how cool and calm Tony Blair was, how centered he was, how focused he was. And meanwhile, George W. really came across like a bumbling idiot. Because I think if whatever the conspiracy theories are to go with 9/11, it's more Rumsfeld and Cheney, and George W. was just kind of there to finish, to put the people in who worked for his father to finish some unfinished things for the world order, not necessarily for what we care about. But it has come out that Tony Blair was the one that fed Bush the information of weapons of mass destruction because they wanted us in there for a war for the benefit of the cabal and the British Empire, not for our benefit. So that, again, I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but I really do want to repeat this. Don't take whatever you hear as gospel, take what you hear and try to connect it into that web, because that is what we are seeing. Trump has looked at the spokes of the web, and he's figuring out which threads he can pull to create holes so that web will eventually collapse. Okay, I can take a break if you want to ask me any questions, but thank you. It's all in my mind, and I've been connecting these things, and I wanted to be able to get that out for your viewers.
Well, a lot of things are coming to the surface right now. You know, Trump is out there posting on the 2020 election like crazy on his Truth Social. You hear, you also know that he's going to war right now with the Federal Reserve. Jerome Powell is put on notice. So it's obvious that there's a lot of dominoes falling at once right now. Like, it's all happening. And Maduro is the key. And South America, you got the president of Colombia saying, come get me. You got 𝗬𝗂 worried now. I'm hearing she's maneuvering troops. And that they're also, they know the type of weaponry or technology, artillery that we have, that we could just take them out in a couple hours. So this is not something that's going to be a grandstanding war like we did with Iraq. We have technology now, these frequency weapons that can go in and just kind of take out anybody in a matter of hours. So they all know this now. So what's holding Trump back is his own morality, is what he's saying. But the truth is, we've got to work fast. We've got to work now. We've got to move ahead and complete this mission, correct? Like, we have no time to waste.
Right, exactly. And I don't think Trump is holding back in any way. I think as we know what he does, he takes pauses. He takes pauses because he knows his pauses get people going crazy. We do know that part, but he also takes a pause because he needs to see how things, as you said, a domino, which dominoes fell, which dominoes didn't fall.
And you can kind of see what's going to be the weakest link.
Exactly.
Where you can make the next move.
Exactly. And that is the brilliance. But the other thing is that I don't think we've ever seen a cabinet work together. There's a team there because Pete Hegseth is doing his job. Scott Bessent is just as busy as Pete Hegseth because all of the financial that is being exposed, the drug cartels, the connections to the banks, all of that. Then you've got Marco Rubio. I saw this great stream of memes, and it was Marco Rubio where he's often sitting in the Oval Office, dressed as Khomeini, and the next one had him dressed as, oh, who was it? Well, it had him as the leader of all of these different nations that we are currently attacking. Did you ever think that Marco Rubio would shine as much as he has? You know,
I never really took to the guy. I never really liked him when he was going against Trump or running against Trump, obviously, because I knew the horse in the race for me was Trump. But now he's grown on me, and I can tell that he's like a Trump protege. And obviously, Hegseth, Rubio, and Vance, I'm liking them more and more. And it looks like they're going to be the ones forging ahead in the future.
Well, exactly. And so if we could imagine that we were in the Oval Office and sitting there was Trump and Hegseth and Bessent and Rubio, they are all looking at their pieces of the puzzle to accomplish the goal of destroying the British financial system, or put another way, create our sovereignty from the British financial system.
So now that we have Maduro, he's basically the key to everything, right? He's going to be the key to everything. His testimonies, everything he says, his confessions are going to lead to everything. The 2020 election, it's going to lead to so much more than that. What about Tina Peters? I mean, she's sitting in jail in the Colorado State Jail right now. Trump has already pardoned her. We're waiting on her. She's also a major component to 2020, 2024. I mean, what's going to happen with her? Have you heard anything about her?
I haven't heard anything specific about Tina Peters, but I'm not of the mind that Maduro is the key central piece.
He is the key central piece, correct?
I don't think he's the key. I think he is one of the keys that can identify the other keys to make this collapse. No, I don't see him as that important. What I really see is who are the other people that served him that we need to talk to, that they are the ones who implemented things.
Our own politicians that were getting kickbacks.
Well, exactly. And I posted about that, and then people got online and said fake. So then what I did was I went back to the original letter that was sent to Trump, and I'm not remembering the person's name who worked for Maduro, who exposed all of our senators, but that was published in a Dallas newspaper, and the list of our senators, typewritten, was attached to that, and I posted that on my X. You can find that on 𝗵𝗲_𝗠𝗏 on X. It's all there.
But I mean, so Maduro is going to lead to
the Venezuela. When we say Maduro, then people think that human being. No, the Venezuela exposure, because we need to get the other players. When someone's a leader and they decide something has to happen, they delegate it. We want to know who he delegated those things to, because they are the ones that have the goods that will further expose things.
So that's probably what he's doing right now, right? He's singing like a
Exactly.
canary and leading to the web of intricacies that's going to take everybody else down. So they're worse. And they say Trump has put this on his Truth Social post that all roads lead to Obama.
But they do. I don't think Maduro is necessarily singing like a canary. We cannot make assumptions like that. What we can assume is that by having him, we can identify the other players. That is why Trump talks about Mark Carney and Canada. What is the connection between Canada and Venezuela and our central banks? The other thing that's before the Supreme Court right now is whether Trump can actually fire 𝗬𝗏cie𝗂𝗁𝗍, the whatever her role is. I'm sorry, I'm having senior moments on titles.
That's all right.
But you know who I'm talking about. She works for the Federal Reserve. She's one of the governors or whatever you call them. If the Supreme Court rules in Trump's favor on that, then to your point that you brought up, Powell's the next hit. But also don't forget, in Trump's first administration, he moved the Federal Reserve under the Treasury. That was the first step in taking away the sovereignty of the Federal Reserve. If people aren't aware, the U.S. has never controlled the Federal Reserve. They are basically the U.S. central bank.
Right. They're a separate entity. They're their own thing.
Exactly. They are a complete separate entity that no president has ever had control over. But by first moving them under the Treasury, that was when Mnuchin was able to start the process. 𝗏𝗏𝗏 is really working on that process to expose it, to root it out, and to break it up even more.
So how long do you think, Jan, that this, I've always said 2026 is going to be an exciting year. This is the year of action. How long do you think this is going to take? I mean, when do you think the dominoes really begin to fall?
Well, you know, as Colonel 𝗬𝗶𝗍 says, it takes as long as it's going to take. And I agree with that. But are you familiar with at Gitmo? They have put together a media room. All right.
Yes. Yeah. I've been told about this.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to save it as people that are already there, he says, and I've talked to some people that are there.
Okay.
So
all right. So let's just think about what that means. We don't have to worry about our corrupt judicial system. Haven't we been waiting for public tribunals?
Yeah. Right. So that's what's crazy to me. Like, is this going to be, I mean, we can't depend on the mainstream media to cover anything. So I know they're already getting independent journalists to go in there, right? Like to cover this. They're getting other media sources to go in there that are trustworthy. Do you know about this?
Yeah. Why do you think Catherine Herridge has been down there for so long? And again, optics and clues. How many times has she posted pictures of herself there? And we know what a credible journalist she is.
Yeah.
Right? So we've got the signs that they are picking the right people to cover it. At the same time, if they've got a media room and the tribunal is going to go on, we don't need a talking head. We are going to be able to see it. And then will ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC, MS, whatever the MS Now or whatever they're called, will they decide that they're going to air it or not? And
or be taken down. People won't even watch them anymore. When these other syndicates air this stuff, who's going to be watching CNN, Fox? They're going to their attention is going to go to immediately to these other syndicates.
Well,
and that'll be the death of the mainstream media.
All right. What other syndicates, or will it just be broadcast over the internet?
Probably over the internet.
Just broadcast.
Yeah.
It will
Just, I
be
mean, people will
its
be
own channel. The Gitmo News Network is what we are likely to see.
That will be
GNN.
crazy.
GNN, not CNN anymore.
Oh my gosh. That's what's coming, huh?
That's what it really, if we just look at those, Trump is saying, I don't need you. I'm not playing your game anymore. I won't play with you. I will find another way to get it done.
Beautiful.
That's what is going on. Now, I would love if they called it the Gitmo News Network. I watch GNN, not CNN.
GNN. Oh boy, man. Well,
CNN is coming to a computer screen near you.
oh, that's huge. Oh my gosh, this is going to be incredible.
Yeah.
Well, what else should we cover? Is that about it, Jan, for now?
There's one other thing that I would like to bring up, and that is my concern about how clueless our politicians are. And I don't care about the
On everything that's happening that we're talking about right now.
On understanding where the people are, because I haven't finished my report for the DOD, but I am in the midst of this analysis, and what I am calling it is the voter psychological shift. So before Trump, yeah, you could have all these young consultants tell you, focus on these issues, tell them what they want to hear, blah, 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 get into their hearts and minds. What 2016 did was it said, or Trump said, I have a finger on the pulse of the people. What the people said is Trump is saying what I'm thinking, but I am too afraid to say because I'll be punished. What did 2020 do? 2020 did for the people that we had trusted that if I vote for you and you represent me, you're going to do a job that's going to take care of me. Oh, I found out that you didn't, that you betrayed every bit of that trust. Worse is what Trump, not worse Trump, but worse was that Trump had to keep on harping on it because we, the people, had to realize we were sitting on our bottoms thinking that things were going to get done. So we had to get off our bottoms. 2020 was the people getting off of our bottoms and taking back control. 2024 was basically, it's as if in Jordan, there's an incredible place called Petra. In fact, Raiders of the Lost Ark was filmed there, but there was a huge rock that was, 100 feet wide and a couple of 100 feet high, and an earthquake cracked it, and it's called the 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗹. And once people could get through to it, they could discover Petra and all of these incredible, incredible buildings carved out of stone and everything else. What the 16 and 2020 did was it started the rumbling of the earthquake. But 2024 not only created that crack, it then allowed the keys to open the door to truth and reality. That is what has been happening since Trump came back for his second term. And it has hit people like a tsunami. For some, it's taken the mask off. For some, there was fog and there wasn't complete clarity, and that fog has lifted. And so there is an awakeness amongst the people that is greater than it has ever been before. If we were to have an election today, nearly 80 million voted for Trump in November 2024. I would say it would be 90 to 100 million or more.
I agree with that.
So our politicians are so clueless, while they still think it's ideology that they need to throw their peacock feathers around and look good. That is not what it is.
They're disconnected. They're not in touch with the reality at all.
Let me give you an example of how stupid they are. Well, let me just go through my thought process. So the House passed a bill, no rogue judges. This was when all the judicial were going nuts. All right, so they pass it. They call it no rogue judges. My first reaction was, what a stupid name. If that's going to the Senate, what Democrat would ever vote for it? Okay, I've learned to think beyond just what a stupid name, and then to ask, what's really going on here? Oh, was this the way for the House GOP to not really have to deal with it, but look like they voted it, knowing that the bill would never pass, and they can take credit for doing it, and it fails in the Senate? So I'm not willing to fully accept that. So I started looking at different polls. The question was to the Democrats and the Republicans, do you want an impartial judicial system? 94% of the Democrats said yes, 92% of the Republicans. The next question was, do you believe we currently have an impartial judicial system? 14% of the Democrats said yes. 12% of the Republicans said yes. All right, so we've got awareness. We've got not partisan, we've got bipartisan awareness that if our politicians had been smart enough, they could have made an impact. Instead, what happened was the Supreme Court had to step in and do it. Now, when I was the global vice president of Republicans overseas, I can't tell you how many senators and congressmen would come through, and we would host them. I would always ask them this one question: why? Tell me why, after all these years, our country stagnates and you are still discussing the same issues: income inequality, immigration, Second Amendment, gun rights. Why don't you ever work together to bring any resolution? Any resolution? The answer was, then what would we have to campaign on? From the honest, what would we have to campaign on? So our country stagnates for their self-serving interests, which we know they're self-serving. That is not something that is news to any of us, even if your head was where the sun doesn't shine. We've known that. But now my next point is how stupid they were to blow an opportunity that they could have campaigned on, that they shut down the rogue judges. Why didn't they call it ending impartial judicial exercise? Why didn't they come up with some name that would then have gotten, we just needed 7 Democrats to vote to pass that bill in the Senate. That's all. That's what ended the shutdown. That's all that would have been needed. But why don't they do that? And that is
all about the wording, huh?
Well, it's more. It was strategically so they looked good and then didn't have to really deal with this issue. I mean, I could give you a list of things that they postpone and procrastinate because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to deal with any conflict or blowback from their voters. So, and I'll be happy to come back another time and really go into that in detail, but that's the game they play. And that is why we look at our country and we have no movement. That is why they're scared of Trump, because
he's rattling the cages, man.
urgency. He operates from urgency and he makes things happen. And they don't know how to make things happen.
Jan, thank you so much for joining me. I love having you on. Dr. Jan Halper, folks. Where do people find you?
The best is X, which is 𝗵_shrink. There's no numbers. There are not dashes. There are not a couple of underscores. There are 12 fake accounts, last I counted. But it's 𝗵_shrink, and it's real Dr. Jan at Truth.
Beautiful.
Two best ways.
Stay with me just for a moment, folks. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, baby. Jan Halper, you're awesome. I love having you on. Stay with me just for a moment.
Thanks.
Please.